Good evening, folks, and thanks for joining us this evening. We're going to have a 2-hour discussion with nobody in particular, GLP member NIP. Backed by popular demand, she's going to share some of her insights with us. She had a show the other day. I forget the Australian station she was on, but it was very interesting. I did post the links in her last thread. You're welcome to check out that podcast. It's only available for 7 days, and I also posted her last podcast here. 2342 will be along in about 15-20 minutes. He does show here in the room, but he's taking care of something. So I'm going to turn the mic over to GLP member NIP and sit back and enjoy. This is open mic, but I would like to add, please be respectful. I'm sure there'll be things that you don't understand or agree or disagree, but let's remember to be respectful. She is a guest here tonight, and this show will be run as we run any of our other shows. So your cooperation is appreciated. Welcome, Nip. Welcome to GLP.
Yeah. Hi there, man. Yeah, I'm here. The show is open mic. You guys get to choose the topics, essentially, because I didn't come on with anything particular planned for the evening. So I hope it goes well and all of you enjoy it. And if somebody's got a lead-off question,
I do, Nip. Why don't you just, for people who are just listening in right now, and we've had a few people who said, who's Nip? Can you tell us, just give us a brief bio on you and your site, Abundant Hope?
Sure. The brief bio is that I have a global team, and we went public in 2005. It's the Second Coming organization. I'm partnered directly with the Return to Jesus and other returned masters, and the website deals with that. We have numerous people that communicate with them and post messages. We have team members that also post all the news you didn't want to hear every day about, what's going on everywhere in the world that's not so nice. And I've had, the website itself has been up since December of 2005, but I went public in January of that year. And I've been here officially on GLP for just over 3 years, but I used to, come in and post now and then. But it was in January of 3 years ago that I took a serious interest here, and I'm an old lady by some standards. Some people tell me I still sound kind of childish. I don't know, but I'm 64. I'm a grandmother. I'm single, formerly married, have grandkids, all of that sort of stuff, completely normal life, in that regard. And I became, pretty concerned, a lot of, when I was very young about where this world was going. And it's just all led to this and a vast interest. And then with the internet, I was able to, develop some interests. I have a broad range of interests, and I post all over GLP in almost any kind of thread, and so I'm game for almost any topic tonight. If I'm not game for it, I'll let you know.
All right, Nip, exactly. In our past discussions that we've had with you, I've been present for 3 of them. Could you care to expound on exactly what you do? A little bit more in detail for people. What exactly do you do? There was a few posts in the thread that, they didn't understand exactly where you were coming from.
The basic thing that I do is that I'm in contact with the celestial hierarchy on this planet, and I do it by the method of telepathy, which most people will do eventually. It's mind-to-mind communication. I'm not chipped. I don't hear sounds, etc. It's all totally mind-to-mind. And in that regard, everybody's personality shows mind-to-mind when you're engaged in a telepathic mind-to-mind conversation. Other than there is no sound, it's like your thoughts, but the other person's thoughts are there, and they aren't your thoughts. You can have conversation exactly like you do over the telephone. It's So I do that. We give a lot of teaching that's very, very necessary to the planet. It's been very difficult. The ones labeled Christ and the others are returned and have been since 1954 and have had a great deal of trouble manifesting their presence on the planet because the elite that I just kind of tend to label the thugs have not been in service to this idea. This whole thing should have started back at the time of Kennedy, and he was actually taken to meet Jesus at that time and was subsequently murdered on the day that he was going to announce our visitors from other worlds, and the other worlds they're from are heaven, essentially, and other just advanced planets. But the day that they murdered him, he had a speech prepared to give to the United States announcing that we would be working with these beings and that it would be great and wonderful change. And his murder sort of bullet literally into all of that. And it's been difficult since. The reason we have the internet now is it was gifted to the planet because it's really, really necessary to have a global communication system that John Q. Public enjoy and do that.
We have 2342 with us. 23, ticket.
Hey, nobody in particular. Thanks a lot for making it out tonight. Really glad I get to speak with
you. I didn't have to make it out anywhere. I'm sitting right in my living room. Are there any questions at this point?
23, I just had her do a brief bio for everyone until you got here, so carry it.
I just found this video, and I'm sure you talked about it because it was from March. Because it was from yesterday. But I'm wondering, like, how the hell can
Dude, you got cut off.
Plus, man, I'll say you should probably explain what's in that video because she's not going to be able to stop in the middle of the thing and then watch a video. You know what I'm saying?
He's right. I can't. It's a rather long video, and I don't think this is the best time to assess it. But if you'd like, you can go put the link to the video in the podcast thread, and I'll look at it later and make my comment on it.
Nip, let me ask you. Most of us have our antiquated belief systems. And in listening to you, there's a lot that's similar and a lot that differs. If humanity is on a path to a great change, the messages that you give us, nothing is going to stop that. What's planned, our fate is going to take its course regardless. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes, but the fate can vary according to the cooperation of man. But we are in a whole lot of cosmic energies that are unavoidable. They're cycles that we're simply, let me get rid of this green thing. It keeps popping up in my face for rooms. Let's just try and, I can't, okay. Anyway, basically, no, but the members, the folks from the higher realms that here, though, are more than willing to work with man and have a more productive outcome. But at some point, the planet has to be emptied because of the physical changes that the planet is going to undergo. They are not survivable by man at all. The air is going to be way too toxic, and so the planet will be evacuated of all people. And I'm not in control of that date. You know, those above know how to do those sort of things. They've done a great deal of assistance to drag this out for a very long time. And we're still, in wait mode, for the time that will handle. We really, really are trying very hard to get on global TV to explain what's coming because people don't know. A lot of people suspect things, but, overall they don't know, and we'd like to provide a brief period of education.
Well, evidently, those, we're going to call them the powers that be, know something because you just mentioned that, we have to do a clearing, or we'll even use the term culling. So if they know, but they didn't want us to know, and that's where the conspiracy has been for all these years. Would it be fair to say that your hierarchy is working with them?
With the people of Earth, you mean, or the elite?
Exactly, the elite.
Yes, they're working with them. That's required by galactic law because people trust their governments, and we have to have government cooperation. But government cooperation will go out the window. I mean, if the planet does begin to go into a major axis shift or pole reversal or something like that, that overrides the government, and we go into moon. The planet is not, I don't like the word cold. It's sorting. Everybody, all souls are at a different level. And the planet is going up in vibration because we're in something called the wave that is changing the vibration of matter, which is producing the weird noises that people hear and other changes of that sort. And so not everybody can stay here afterwards to match the new energy. So they're simply going to be moved to other places. I don't like the word calling, and I don't like, other terms of that sort. I don't like some people get to go to hellfire because that doesn't exist. The body cannot burn forever, and neither can the soul. That's an impossibility, and nature doesn't create such a thing. It creates low astral realms around planets that are pretty hellish, and dark entities are trapped into those, and people do, sometimes during surgeries or other things like that, make a little trip to hell, and it's just the lower astral realms, but it's not a place where, souls are consumed forever and ever.
Well,
Hey, nobody, sorry about that a minute ago. One of the things I wanted to ask you, I wanted to jump in here real quick. I heard you talk about those different sounds that a lot of people are hearing. And one of the people that comes on GLP, Joe Banks, actually was deciphering some of those sounds. And he said that they are the natural frequencies of like healing, like the Schumann resonance or something like that. So are they being used to like actually heal the planet from some of these, like for example, the Fukushima disaster that has been spewing all sorts of nasty radioactive particles? Are they using some type of frequency generation to balance it out and eliminate the toxicity?
They do have technologies in terms of things like Fukushima to go in there and turn it off, and that was done, and there's been a whole lot of stuff put on the net that I think is rather foolish on that. They shut down Chernobyl. Certainly there was, some initial radiation put out, but I think the material on the net about how Fukushima is still killing everything is a cover-up for the fact that we are in radiation from the center of the Milky Way, and they'd like to cover that up and blame it on Fukushima. And they do have technologies that do that. The wave coming in and other things that are using are affecting the matter and releasing sounds and releasing demonic energies that are buried deeply in it. I had a demonic energy, I guess we're going to call it that way. I called it my screaming banshee. It was funny, but that's the term I found. It came up in my kitchen, about 14 months ago, and I started to hear a vibrating, shaking sound in the counter next. I have, a typical short counter next to the stove, and vibrating noise, but I couldn't see any vibrating. It was something that I heard, and I was cooking something on the stove, and I was kind of hoping that was the lid rattling, but it wasn't. I, didn't change it, and the vibration sound increased just tremendously, and then all of a sudden there was a loud screech that's very similar to one of those alarms you have, smoke detector alarms, and then it was gone, and I knew what was going on with that. People are going to hear more of those too, and possibly be frightened by them. These are just trapped energies, dark energies of all sorts, and as the planet heats and the matter moves and the vibration comes up, these are released. And then when they come, that's even in the Bible a little bit with the hell things, and they talk about the demons coming up. A lot of them are not even beings, they're thought forms, they're stored negative energy from the planet for, umpteen years. And as these come out, they're simply trapped and removed, and you'll never hear from them again. And when we go through the magnetic reversal, all of them will come up. But that will totally cleanse the planet why it's still, during the magnetic reversal, the planet will come to a halt in terms of its turning, and then it'll start returning, and the sun would come up in the west then. And during that period where the planet is still, it affects the gravitation in some way, and all that negative stuff just comes out, and it's sort of vacuumed up and destroyed using technology, for lack of, any other words. But a lot of people are going to hear screaming banshees for a while, too.
So what exactly are these screaming banshees then that people are hearing? I'm sorry, I heard you talking a little bit about it earlier, but it kind of went a little bit past me.
It's just dark thought forms and energies that are coming up out of the very compressed earth. Our matter here almost doesn't move. I mean, it's very, very dense. And as the vibration goes up in the matter, it just reduces. We've had all these wars on Earth, and the wars and the pounding and the bloodshed and the people's emotions, all of that negative stuff gets trapped into the matter. And all a screaming banshee is some of that being released by the change of frequency of the matter. And from the heating of it, the volcanism, etc. All of that will cause these to come up. And they will scare some people, hopefully not. But that's part of the story in the Bible anyway, that covers the demons coming up from hell. I don't remember where it is or exactly how it reads, but that's what's going on. Somebody I'm having troubles talking and keeping going with the texting here, or somebody wants to let one of those people that's texting mic up, or somebody else ask the question for them so I can answer it.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff here in the forum. So which particular guest are you speaking of? Usually we have them in the second hour to start asking guest questions. But if you want to take them now, I guess we could do that. That's fine.
Yeah, I do. I want totally open mic tonight. That's the point, and let things get covered that come to mind, because I didn't prepare an agenda tonight like I did the last one. I just like it to go where people have interest. And somebody's asked something about the sun in here a ways back. I can't watch the text and talk to you.
Yeah, I remember what that was, nobody. Somebody had asked earlier about what's up with all the craft around the sun. Are those the ones that are going to be saving the people from these catastrophes that you were speaking of in the last show that we did?
Those probably not. Those are high technology crafts that do things like remodel suns and solar systems and move energy around and that sort of thing. And they would not be directly involved in the evacuation, no. These are full of technical specialists with all sorts of energy beams and things. Some of the images even show them beaming energy off the ship into the sun. Sometimes that does show. They can create coronal holes and sunspots with them, although the sun will do that itself. There's a fine balance right now going on between the energies the Earth needs from the sun, and if the Earth should not be overstimulated, you're going to see a lot of sunspots on the back of the sun venting. They'll vent the sun away from the Earth, in other words. There are other times, in order to prevent the magnetic reversal, we need a shot of protons, and they will provide that shot. And on my thread that I run myself, just for my own documentation, I've occasionally posted links from real time, and they almost always, if they're going to shoot protons at the Earth, they shoot them inside the magnetosphere, and it's picked up on the weather settle, in geostationary orbit or whatever it's called, geosynchronous orbit. And the proton shots will show in that, and they always give them around in the general vicinity of 8 UTC, and you'll see that in that general vicinity. And you'll see them doing that when the sun's been too quiet and we're not getting enough protons and other energies off of it. And
some Someone in here was asking about the interstellar cloud.
We're actually in three major energies right now. One of them's the photon belt. We were brought into that. Well, we entered it, or our son entered it in 1992, and that's a traumatic event. And the planet, all the people were put to sleep for a week then. You have to be in basements, and you have to, if you need to go outside for emergencies and things, the light is so bright that people have to have welder's helmets. And, nobody was prepared for that. The preparation couldn't be created for it. So they just paused everybody's life, and that happened. It's about a 5-day period that there's intense brightness. And then you all woke up and didn't even, some of you may have been a little stiff, but you didn't know anything had happened. But so we're in that. And then in roughly October, we entered a band of coming from the center of the Milky Way that has mostly all sorts of different frequencies of gamma rays, and it also has the famous God particle that they're looking for on CERN these days. And there's plenty of them coming right in, but I don't can capture them or ID them. But these gamma rays, we are in these about every, I think it's 57 million years. I'm not going to get my calculator out right now, believe then. And during that time, we have massive, massive change in evolution. And if some of you have watched anything on the internet about gamma rays, they're using them to sterilize food, which is actually a good use for them. It doesn't harm the food to do that. And then the other use that they're just playing around with, they've used them on plants and changed the color of the flowers and things like that. They remodel DNA, and they will remove and they will enhance functional DNA on the planet. And during the next couple of thousand years, we are going to undergo tremendous evolution on this planet. And evolution comes in spurts. An awful lot of scientists have actually noticed that. And I went somewhere the other day on the net and looked up evolution spurts, and they're, sure enough, I found a list where they were coming about every 50,000 or so years in terms of them, examining the Earth record. And so we're going to go through another one of those. And then the third energy system that we're in is called the wave, and it comes from paradise. And paradise is the center of the creation. It's a universe. It's hidden. You cannot black gravity bodies. They're not black holes. It's a different structure, but it makes it not viewable. But these energies are also coming from there, and that's the biggest thing now, that they've been coming for 3 to 4 years, about every 3 months or thereabouts. They actually come in from the top of the solar system, go down and exit out on the bottom of our solar system. Our solar system's kind of a plate. And these elevate or increase the frequency of the matter, and that's the biggest thing that's producing the sounds that people are hearing.
And did you just say a minute ago that these creatures or these ETs put the entire world to sleep for a week?
Yes, they did.
So what do they do? Slip a bunch of roofies in the water or what? No, really, how do they do it? I'm just joking.
That's fine. It's fun to make a joke. Let's have a laugh on it. But yeah, no, they don't slip something into the water or whatever. They just pause your body. It doesn't actually pause the soul. Probably people did a lot of dreaming for a week, but it does pause the physical form. And then we would have had a lot of permanent blindness from that, besides major freak out, so that's why it was done. And we'll be doing that again, most likely to evacuate the planet, so there will not also be major freak out from that.
And do you know exactly what type of technology they use to do that? And does our own government have these technologies?
Our own government does not. These things are never released to planets. The beings in these ships that do this are from the super universe government, and no ordinary evolutionary planets are ever given technology like that. So no, it's simply not allowed. And the craft that are used for that are massive, these proton shooting craft and the stasis craft and the craft that we would have gone into an 18-degree axis shift after World War II from the negativity. The planet was, quite ready to give us the boot from that. And they came in and stabilized that so that it did not happen at that time. And so these technologies are, we'll just use the word heaven because that's what people are familiar with. But they're not from other planets, and our government would never have those.
So basically the second and third level civilizations, I guess, have access to those, but people in this primitive state with so much, I guess, reality on duality and this, love-hate situation, that they're only given to beings that know love, basically?
No, these technologies are not given to anybody, period. They are totally in the hands of beings that are trillions of years old that know this stuff.
9:30.
It's never given. There's two types of planets, essentially, irregardless of where the civilization is on the planet. You have evolutionary planets, which is what this world is. Our planet was originally at one point a chunk of the sun. That's why it's nice and hot inside, and why all the crust formed, just over time from space. These are evolutionary planets. The planets, and they are planets of heaven, are custom built. They do not evolve from, suns and other ways that solar systems might get made. And they're made out of elements that do not, both out of earth elements and elements that do not exist on the evolutionary worlds. The Bible likes to talk in heaven there really is a better material, and that's really all we can say about it. I could try vaguely to describe some of that, but some of it is just our elements repeated at a higher frequency with, as you know, an atom has, a nucleus and it has electrons around it, and at the first level of heaven, what's called the Morantia worlds, they have 200 elements instead of 100, and that basic 200 is just our 100 that there's a great deal more space, and we'll just label the space spirit because we don't have any words for that here except spirit. The electrons whirl much faster, but the orbits of the electrons are further apart, so these atoms are much larger than ours, and they behave differently, and that's the best that I can give you, on that difference in terms of the matter. But these are specially constructed, and some of them take millions of years to build. There's no magic wand waving on it. They all circulate water. They have, air around them. They do not have oceans. They simply have, they're all technology, let's put it that way, for maintaining life. They can harbor more people on them because they don't have oceans, they're mostly land space. They have rivers and streams.
Hey, let me ask you, too, I wanted to jump back to those beings that you were talking about that are trillions of years old. Are those the light beings that many people have seen and experienced when they have a near-death experience? Are those the ones that make individuals basically relive their life through a sequence of everything that they've done and how it's affected everybody else? Or are those different? Nobody, are you there?
Yes, I was here. I'm sorry, I put my finger on the wrong button. Okay, let me try to digress back there. The beings handling, like the sun and those sorts of things, no, they are not the beings that would do that. There's lower angels that are created to do that kind of things. There's whole classes of angels that are totally involved in the evolution of man and supervising the evolution and the mind growth and all of that sort of thing. So there's so many kinds of celestial beings. Man, though, does become celestial, and you can have all of those experiences over your eternal life. Many people who have come from evolutionary planets like this will eventually have roles on those massive crafts that remodel suns and the like. It's all open. In a piece in that radio show that I did the other day, it just popped into we were talking about the bottomless pit, I guess, and And I want, there's no top. There's no lids as to where you can go in your eternal life. You are allowed to know and experience all that can be experienced. And so many folks are going to have, share roles with these people, the celestial beings that handle these kinds of things.
I had two questions real quick. Earlier, when you were talking about the evacuation of Earth and how people are going to be put to sleep, is that going to be universal, as in everybody, or are there judgments where this individual is psychologically capable to handle this? We don't need to put them to sleep. Someone can just roll up and be like, "Hey, we're out here." Oh, all right. Let me grab my shirt real quick. Or are they just going to put everybody to sleep regardless of anybody's individual capability?
If we cannot get on global television and cover this, we have no choice but to put everybody to sleep. There are, however, advanced souls here that are incarnate here, and when that happens, they're just going to drop their bodies and be out of here because they can traverse space and they don't need a craft to get them off the planet. But to get other people off the planet, that is looking like what we're going to have to do. Nobody's going to be left behind. Forget the left behind stories. Judgment, most people have already, at soul level, have already been sorted to whether they're going to come back to Earth after the Earth changes or whether they're moving somewhere else. Some of them are going to these specially constructed worlds that I talked about, the heaven worlds. Some of them are from there and they're simply going back home. Others will be going to the lower ones for the first time. There's a lot of normal evolutionary planets that have their people here and they have craft here. They're just going to be picking their people up and taking them home, and they might be picked up in body. They don't need their body. A lot of people actually have bodies stored on their home planets, and they aren't taking these ones with them. And so being in stasis mean that nobody is aware of that process at the time. But in terms of the judgment, it's just sorting. Now, the universe has court systems, and there's some really nasty people here who are going to be sitting in courts. And they will be, facing some decisions handed down on them. That's how judgment goes. But otherwise, the sorting is based on what you know, the vibration of your soul, where you're from, and it's a sorting. It's not, it's nothing more than sorting, and there's really nothing to be afraid of. A lot of souls now, as they pass each life, or lives now, as they pass their last life, are already being moved off the planet and taken to where they're supposed to go when they drop the body due to the normal death process. A lot of people are going to go live to other planets in body, and one of those will be Venus, which has been terraformed. There's already 300,000 people from Earth on Venus, and a lot of celestial help there to settle things in. They will probably be moving. It'll be a little heavy for a while, but they'll probably be moving another 500,000 people to Venus and then holding some of them for a while and then moving them into Venus as bodies become available by method of birth for incarnation. Because they can't dump everybody there now, it wouldn't it wouldn't go so well. But the only people that can go to Venus, however, cannot have criminal records. They have to be clean.
Do people have a choice where they go?
Some people do, yes, and others, they're under the watch care of those various angels that do this kind of thing. And the guardian angel, as they're called, will be making the decision. We have so many different kinds of people, so all the answers are. But there are people that are called free spirits. They've completed their stuff, and they get to go do what they want to do.
And then these trillion-year-old, higher evolved beings, because I've always had this perception, where a lot of people talk about your starseeds, and then, in my opinion, they don't focus on what is the level of these individuals. Is there micromanagement? Do these trillion-year-old beings ever incarnate physically, or is it specifically left to those slightly elevated over the level that they're ascending, i.e., the people coming to help here are from one level above us? There's not necessarily your galactic level individuals incarnating here. So, I guess what would, be the relative age? And then how would Jesus fit into that? What would his age level be? Would these trillion-year-old beings, are they actually, in fact, above Jesus's level?
Sure. A lot of them are. And Jesus himself, two people were Jesus, and I know people don't like that idea, but one of them was Michael of Nebadon, and he moved into our universe. He's the Creator's son. He is, in effect, God of this area that we live in, and he already has, 3.8 million evolutionary planets like Earth that have borne intelligent life to this point, so he has a pretty big realm. There'll actually be about 10 million when that happens. But he incarnate, he came here to solve a lot of problems with this world. It's a special world. And the other one that was Jesus is the soul from the ascending out of the animal thing like I am. I am from the central universe. I'm from paradise. The body isn't, but my soul is, which, is the highest level. I have, in that sense, sat at the right hand of the Father, which everybody does. At some point, they eventually reach that in their evolution. But these beings that are much older were created angelics to start with, and they don't ever incarnate. One of them that I've brought to people, I could post this in the thread later with a couple links. Me and some of my team is an individual named Soraya, and Soraya is the head honcho over the entire universe, super universe. It's called Orbanton, and the Milky Way galaxy is the core galaxy of Orbanton, but there's a whole lot more than the Milky Way in it. That's a pretty large domain. He is at the very top of the ladder there, and normally these people are not involved with some podunk little planet like this one, but this is a very special podunky little planet, to make it clear, and he is involved, but he does not incarnate here. He never even leaves paradise. There's communication technologies, and those are used for him to communicate here. And then there's actually seven super universes, and we live in the seventh one. And there are three leaders. They're called the Ancients of Days, and there is one mentioned in the Bible. And these three Ancients of Days rule the entire super universe with many, 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 many helpers and people underneath them. When you go to heaven, quote unquote, you continue living like you do on Earth, but way beyond Earth, because everybody has so much more knowledge, and you climb a ladder that provides you with more and more knowledge over time. There's no magic in it. Your forms change, your mind changed, but yet it doesn't. You just grow. But these are beings that were originally created early on in the creation that have been responsible for all of this, and they never do incarnate. They're well more than paper pushers, but they're massive beings because knowledge is stored on photons, and they know a lot, and they're massive for that reason. But he's directly, Soraya is directly, over this whole seventh sector of the creation. And the one that, let's take some questions before I continue.
Why would Soraya be so interested in Earth?
Hey, turn your mic down. That's way too loud.
Why would Soraya be so interested in what's so special about Earth?
Earth is a prison ward, and it's a cleanup planet for an awful lot of galactic problems. And also, this planet is a training ward for other beings that are in training to become creator sons, and many of them are actually incarnate on the planet. I'm even in training for that role, but I wasn't created an angel. I'm an ascender, but I'm in training for these very high management roles at some point in the new creations, forming in what we call outer space, because the universe continually grows, and you have to continually. In the times past, the ascending man wasn't really quite ready to take on those kinds of roles, and they are now, and they're highly experienced because they've taken this incredible journey into knowledge. And, more and more of the creation is going to be governed by man, by humans.
Hi, Nip. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Not really sure how to use this, but you mentioned JFK, and I wanted to go back to sort of the beginning here. What is it? How does JFK fit in here? I mean, is there something tangible, something written that you have seen that that we could all see. That
Yeah,
would
I can put the
that we
link to
might
it in my
understand and
thread
help us
later.
understand what you
I
have
was
done.
given the speech anyway that he intended to give that day, and you can do some research, I'm sure, on the internet just about him, and you may come up, you might put JFK and aliens in there, and you might find out, produce, some records of that. But I do have the speech on my website. I put it up there back in 2005, but I know roughly where it is, and I can post a link to it that he was to give that day. Uh, he had he supposedly had the speech written down just on like recipe cards in his pocket, but that is not my source of it. I was given the content of the speech. So I don't know if the recipe cards still exist, however.
Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you, nobody in particular, is remember last time you were on here and you said that approximately 3 months from now or then that there was going to be a great catastrophe and people were going to start being evacuated from the planet. Do you remember that?
We gave the thugs an extra 3 months after December 31st, and we are getting to the end of that. We are still trying to get something on TV. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know the date, but the mother is convulsing pretty bad, meaning the planet, and it's taking more and more to keep the planet under control in terms of the massive energies that she needs to undergo. So I don't know when the date's going to be, but, if we don't get on TV or we can't get on long enough, the evacuation is simply going to happen, with the event of stasis. The planet, the life will be put to sleep and these people will be taken off, at that time. Because there's a lot of people that will resist and they're not going to board craft willingly at this time. Look around at your friends and neighbors and see who might do that. Some of them might if we're going into an axis shift and the air is full of volcanic stuff and it's getting really nasty, but they're not likely to board it if it hasn't gotten really nasty. I did not mean to state, if that it was misunderstood at all, that there would be an event that would happen in 3 months, a catastrophic event. I don't think, I think that there will be one. If it occurs, it will force the stasis, to be done, if it's too much. If there's too many of these gigantic faults, if there's an 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 quake, and there's a couple of them, I think that'll force the stasis and evacuation. It's not in my hands. They review this stuff constantly, day in and day out, because we still want to have the maximum amount of knowledge that we can get onto the planet, whether people are evacuated voluntarily or whether we just have to do it. They'll be in better shape if they wake up on a craft if they've been told about it in advance. So we're still hoping for that. The craft are full of people that know psychology and the human psyche, but we would still like them to know before it happens if that's all, if it becomes.
And last time you were on here also, I remember that you said that weekly you go up in these craft. Is that correct?
I'd say at least an average of weekly, sometimes more often.
Okay. And, for the disbelievers out there or for the, the people that are skeptical, have you ever thought about bringing back, like photographic evidence or some type of trinket?
Instant mass murder. We did consider that. It's not, it is very possible, but we are having enough problem keeping our people alive at the moment that we don't need to add that risk to it. It has been discussed.
I mean, is there something that you could do for the skeptical mind that could convince them without putting yourself and your contactees at even more risk, I should say, than you're already in?
I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. What do you want us to do to create more risk? Pictures would certainly do that. I did post one picture of what one of our people on my team experienced a few years ago because he was into free energy and he was giving annual free energy seminars and they blew up his house.
You know, and the reason I bring this up too is, you know, like you said, if people are going to be nervous going into these craft, and I'll tell you what, I certainly would be skeptical to go into some type of craft, especially if it's shaped like the cube. I ain't going to go with the board, but anyway, I
I'll
mean,
explain the cube in a minute.
sure, sure. So, I mean, for, you know, somebody that would be nervous, I mean, wouldn't there be something that, you know, you would think would give these people more of a hope per se that they're actually going to be, you know, protected and cared for and not put into some, you know, giant motherboard and plugged into a, you know, being like a microchip, I guess you could say, in some giant cube?
It simply doesn't happen. That's all science fiction. You know, these people are, I cannot give you reassurance on that other than my personal knowledge as such. That, you know, our thugs have put out an incredible amount of stuff. What the cube is it's a great big giant computer. It's part of a craft called the New Jerusalem, and it houses the soul records of every single person on this earth that's ensouled. Meaning that I don't even want to explain ensouled right now, but you know, the reason it houses the soul records, a copy of them, your soul, your brain, your knowledge, your mind can be copied just like you can copy things on the computer. It's not difficult. And that is because if there is a major nuclear catastrophe, nuclear stuff can actually damage the soul of people who have what we call an astral or merantial form. Spirit people, high spirit beings are not affected by nuclear stuff, but, you know, medium to lower beings are. And you have complete soul records there, so it can be reconstructed if any of that is lost. And everybody that is ensouled on the planet is chipped to the New Jerusalem computer. You have a chip somewhere in your body, so it always knows where you are. So if there is something massive and you have to be suddenly beamed off the planet, there are people that can actually be picked up and beamed. Not everybody can. But it's always knowing where you are. And so people with this particular soul structure, they have copies of it all in case some of it's damaged. So it's not lost. It can actually be replaced.
You know, another thing, too, I wanted to bring up, I'll bet you most people in here don't know this, and I don't know if you do, but Gene Roddenberry, the, you know, creator of Star Trek, was actually a part of many seances and summoning practices with the Thule Society and the Brill Society. And supposedly, the ideas of the Borg and a lot of these characters and species that are, you know, portrayed in the Star Trek series, they actually summoned up and made contact with the Nine. So I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but if that's the case, I don't know if the people that you work with have similar type of, you know, seances or I guess channelings, and if they're actually contacting the same beings and being fed some type of disinformation to gladly accept walking into the Borg cube.
I don't think the Borg cube was ever real. I think that that's just something that's been done in a very nasty way about the New Jerusalem. We had a lot, you know, we did have some problem with some galactic warring, and that is mostly taken care of now. It's been, you know, it's taken a few million years actually to get it, you know, under the lid. That's why this particular planet is important, in part because a lot of those slugs isn't on this world. They have set new rules because the negativity was getting a little out of range, and what's represented in part by the Borg in terms of the telling of the story is what's called machine mind, and machines do think, and I've mentioned in at some point here that we cannot have computers that are beyond 256-bit because computers beyond that will begin to think, and they don't have any morals. And man has also experimented with being half machine himself, trying to enhance himself or become a superman or a super god. And the machines, you know, they take over. And that actually did become a real problem. And that's behind the, what is it, the Cylons? Is that those other people?
The Cylons?
Yeah. I think they're called Cylons that are in the Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. Yes, and I've also noticed that the symbology there. I've seen the entire series, and it certainly portrays that we've all done this before. We've already been here before, and we're just basically living in a perpetual duality.
You don't get out of perpetual duality until you earn the way out of it. But the machine mind and the misuse of it has made the whole situation worse, and that is a galactic concern, and that's part of the story here on Earth. Is because there are souls that are merged with the machine mind, and they have to become unmerged with it, and being forced into human forms in some way helps unmerge and get the machine out of there. It's, you can't just go abracadabra and remove the machine mind that's been mixed in with the real mind, the cosmic mind. And this area is you were given a lot of truth through all those movies. Let's just put it that way. In that regard, you got some truth about machine mind in Space Odyssey 2001 with Hal the Computer.
Can any of those machine mind, melded human individuals, would they they could take over, over 256-bit could take over whatever on this planet, but say your higher ascended, your trillion-year-old individuals, would that pose any sort of competition to them whatsoever?
No, once you become a spirit being and you're, irregardless of whether you're created an angel or you're coming out of the evolutionary process, you are not affected by those anymore, personally. These people have gone in, these machine people specifically have taken over planets. That really has happened. And we're supposed to have machines, we're supposed to have machine mind, but the people on the planet have to know enough to get on top of it and not let it take over them, because machines learn faster than organic mind does. And it did get way out of a line, and it had to be nipped because it's affecting the newer universes. And some of the, some of the satanic stories are in part involving the machine mind that has no conscience. And even some of these, we're going to go back to my screaming banshee again. There's different energies, but some of that is entrapped within the earth matter now is also some of that machine mind. It's a hodgepodge of things. It was all collected together here on Earth so it could be isolated and dealt with.
Hey, nobody, let me ask you, are you familiar with the HP Hewlett-Packard program that they're doing right now, where they're spraying trillions of nano-sized microchips throughout the entire planet to not only track individuals but to track the environment? So you were talking earlier about how everybody is chipped that's going to be going into this Borg cube computer system. Let me ask you, is this a part of the plan? Is that why they're spreading all these nano-sized microchips around the globe and embedding them into people's bodies, not only to track them but also to control their brain frequencies and their the chemicals that they secrete in their body? I would say that they're trying
to do that with brain frequencies. I want to correct you because I don't want this to be the thing. People are not going to be trapped into this Borg thing. It's merely a computer with their soul records. And when they're, if their soul gets damaged, the computer can, there's a copy there, and it can, their brain, their mind, your mind is basically your soul, can be reprogrammed, and it can also be erased for that matter. It's possible to erase it. And when people pass to the other side in this life that have been through terribly brutal things, they erase some of that terrible, brutal stuff. You don't need to carry things in your soul of being burned at the stake, for example, being roasted alive. You don't need that in your memory. So there are beings that can remove that from your memories, and rightfully so. But memories can also be replaced if they've been corrupted due to nuclear energy. Nobody is sucked into any Borg thing, and I want to make that very clear.
Well, let me ask you this too. With the computer technologies that we have now openly, with just one example, this isn't even the fastest supercomputer, but the Jaguar that calculates approximately 2.3 quadrillion floating points per second. Something like that being hooked up to the World Wide Web per se, with access to all of the microphones and video surveillance systems and drones and sensitive data that's been stored for years and years on these hard drives. Don't you think that it's already too late and that we've already created some type of artificial intelligence that's way beyond our control?
No, not yet. That's really watched because of the risk. Let me go back to this Borg thing a little bit. The teaching on the Borg is really what the New World Order is trying to do on Earth, only they aren't trying to make us a little cube. They are trying to connect and wire all their slaves into a central system. And that was portrayed in those movies like the Borg. There wasn't a movie called The Borg, excuse me, but that's part of the teaching that was, that was given in that, is having, you don't necessarily have, it's been so long since I saw those, but didn't Captain Kirk or whatever his name get into that once, and he was all wired up with some contraption over his head?
Not
And,
Kirk,
they don't
Captain
need a
Picard.
contraption over the
Captain
head, though,
Picard.
to wire you into that. But that's not going to be allowed here. It just simply isn't.
Well, I mean, isn't it already being done? I mean, people already integrating themselves with the machine. I know that they're boasting in the scientific communities nano bots that can literally rewrite brain cells into miniature CPUs with multiple transistors. So basically, aren't they already doing that to us as we speak?
Well, don't you think that's really a good reason to end the planet and evacuate it?
Well, I would hope not. I would hope that they would use those technologies instead to, benefit man and the planet. And with these technologies that can rewrite code, maybe they could do something to rewrite the ozone layers and make them stronger, or add some type of extra barrier to protect it from the sun. Have you ever talked to your beings about something like that instead of sending everybody off the planet, finding a way to save the planet that we're currently on?
These things will come in the future with the ascension of the planet. It's not the time to do this. We could have done a lot of interesting things from the time of Kennedy, but the planet would still eventually have to be evacuated because it is going to go through changes that we can't be here for anyway. But yes, there are positive uses of all of this technology, and there are negative uses of it. And some of it is not ever even mentioned, but some of it that is coming, yes, and it is going to some of this will be part of the future on this planet because it's a training planet. Once it's cleansed, the people that get to come back are going to experience learning all this new stuff that goes with further dimensional change. We have to, before we can have some of this, we truly have to make some peace on this planet, and the ones that are coming back, I'm pretty sure, are going to do that awfully quick. That brings us into the 5D experience, the 6D experience. When we go into that eventually, there will be more technologies that will be either given to us, or there will be help in developing them and in their proper use that will benefit everybody. And when we become an 8D planet at some pretty far distant road right now, there will be more introduced, and then we'll become a 9D planet at some time, and there will be more and more introduced. And these things are valuable. They're part of the human existence. They're part of becoming godlike, but they need to be done when it's time. There's a time for everything.
Yeah, sure. I understand that. I'm just trying to put together the concept of these incredible ships that you speak of that can manipulate the sun and the sun's energies to affect our own planet in a different way. I'm just trying to figure out why they don't use their craft and their technologies to actually protect the planet and adjust the frequencies so that instead of having to send everybody off the planet, making it here on Earth more harmonious and with nature and everybody else could be in more peace, because it just seems to be with all this doom that's going on, it just is getting worse and worse, is it not? With Fukushima and the Gulf disaster. Why don't they? Have they ever gather together and talk about
We had
stopping
to have
this?
cooperation of the government. It didn't happen. That's cosmic law. I can't totally explain that, but that's how it goes. And it's too late. There comes a time when you have to sort the souls, because there's so many different people on this planet, and some of them are not ready. And the planet cannot survive this anymore, the pollution and everything else. And there are some souls, when we go through the dimensional vibratory change, Some of this is going to cause people that are not ready to simply die, and they will die because their bodies cannot handle the frequency. They will age and die extremely rapidly, and that's not a cool situation either.
Can I interrupt?
This is a podcast, so if you could wait your turn, please. Thank you.
Let's get some questions. 2342.
In particular, Osiris was going to mic up. He wanted to ask you some questions. And
I'd like the audience to ask some questions, if we could. Some of these people that are waiting that I see flashing by here, could we pick up some of those? Could some of you read through that and let them ask a question if they're mic'd up?
I have a question.
Okay, fire.
Okay, what if the computers are based on logic? So what if we just go completely illogical against the computer, and what would happen then?
Who on earth's going to do that? That's what you're asking. Are you saying that we could do that? We need computers. You know, I'm not sure how to answer your question. I'm not sure what you're thinking about. I'm not understanding it.
I have a question.
I'm saying the computers are based on logic, so
Yeah,
if we're illogical in our communication, how many degrees does it have to go through before they, decipher a code or some sort? We could, psych them out.
Well, no, she said in our capability we couldn't compete with them, dude. She already said that in our current state we couldn't. There's nothing that we could do. Higher ascended beings could.
I have a question for Freddie's got a question. Go ahead, Freddie.
Well, I was listening to what you were saying, Nip, and about the how our souls were stored. A copy of our souls were stored in a central computer, and that in essence the soul was like stored in like a photon pattern. And you were trying to, I guess, say that if our soul somehow became damaged, or that it could be altered or erased and rewritten from that original pattern, which is interesting. So if the soul is like the essence of our being, and it can be erased and rewritten, and it's stored in this photon pattern, does that imply that we're just really kind of little programs? We're not actually real. We think we're real, but we're not. We're just programs. We're just photon patterns.
In essence, yes, except it's not digital technology. It's different than digital technology. But if you want to look at it that way, in a way, you're all little computers hooked into the central cosmic consciousness. That's not a bad way to look at it. The soul and the mind are not quite the same thing. The mind is part of the soul. It's your records. The mind. There are basically two levels of beings, non-spirit and spiritual. Non-spiritual beings are called Miranchal, and they simply have not morphed into spirit beings yet. There's a long process that does that. But mind is stored in these beings on electrons. An electron can actually hold 3 gigs. Now, you may not want to believe that, but would you please look at the telephone wires that carry the internet? I think you could start to believe that maybe an electron will hold 3 gigs. Electrons will hold basically any old shit, and so when people are first, when the soul first comes into being, our mind, stupid, it doesn't know anything, it doesn't think well, it doesn't reason, it doesn't sort well, and it builds up a whole bunch of crap. And over your evolution of your soul and your mind, you have to replace the crap with the truth. And when you replace the crap with the truth, your electrons are converted using the positron, I think, but I was working on that once, and it didn't seem important, and I didn't continue with it. But at any rate, you'll end up converting, getting rid of your junk. And when you get rid of the junk, which is your karma is just your junk. It's what you don't know or what you misunderstand. And it converts to photons, and because photons are light and they store much, much more than an electron does, you become what's called a light being, or a photon being, or a spirit being, or an energy being, whatever word that you want to use for that. But everything that you've learned over the long eons of your early development will eventually all be corrected as to the knowledge and be stored on photons. And some interest in terms of what a photon can handle or carry. Let's look at our fiber optic cable and how much more it can carry when they laid that on this planet. So that, that's the two simple examples I can give, because It is the electrons that themselves that store and carry the voice across the, I know there's other technology that gets that onto there, but it's the electrons that carry your voice on the telephone. Or I'm not sure if, at this moment, if the cell tower transmissions, if that stuff's on electrons, probably so. I think, as a matter of fact, it would be more electrons, and as the planet ascends, there's going to be more and more photons in the planetary mind, and they will carry communications much more efficiently. And
I have a question.
are all tied into that somehow too, and I'm not familiar with man's teaching about radio waves or any of that stuff. I don't have the jargon.
Yeah, Nip, if I could just ask you a quick question. First of all, I would like to say thanks for being here. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. And it's kind of a couple-part question, but just bear with me. First of all, why you? Why have you been selected for this all this knowledge? And is there something special or anything like that? Or sorry, my mic stopped. And also, is there some kind of reference point or information you can point us to validate anything that you're saying? I'm just curious.
I think go on the internet and see what man thinks he's discovered on some of it. I can't validate all my experiences any more than I can validate the job you've got, How was I selected for this? I asked for the job, essentially. I was becoming more and more frustrated on the planet, extremely frustrated, as a matter of fact, and I was born telepathic. I've been doing this communication forever. But we get a lot of volunteers. It's a volunteer thing. Nobody points at you and says, you're going to do it. We have many volunteers incarnate on this planet, and any of them could have done the same thing. I'm not trying to say I'm special, but a lot of people have just checked out from it. They get started. They get frightened. Life gets really tough for them. They get frightened because it's risky. I think I'm hearing my voice. Is there any particular reason for that? I am hearing my voice. Is there a reason for that?
Someone's holding.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. It was starting to detract me here in the echo. All of us that have come here from the higher realms have come in with a load of, advisors, etc., and I just took greater and greater an interest, and it's sometime 2001 or 2002, I just flat volunteered, and I said I'm going to do this if what I want to do is accepted, and it's led to all of this. I went through a lot of training and reading and going to libraries, familiar somewhat with New Age and other religions and this, that, and the other topics. It developed, at first we thought we would not go public with it, and then a decision was made to go public with it because everything that they've tried to do in terms of the spiritual arena on this planet basically eventually goes down the tubes. It gets so infected with the dark games. The Phoenix Journals totally went south. They've had a terrible difficulty keeping the Urantia book up. There's numerous websites that have been providing material, and they always land up with people walking away and saying, I've had enough. And I told them that no matter where we got with this, that I was not going to walk away from it, and I haven't, and I won't. Because somebody's just got to stay in the business. And numerous other people have come into this. There's a long list of telepaths on my website, if you go, that are involved. We have people that we have placed into regional director positions that we have not announced because it's too risky. The team's a lot larger than it is implied on the website at this time. And it's just growing from there. And, we're here. It's been hard. We faced a lot of stuff, but I'm not throwing in the rag.
Do you have any advice for someone who would be interested in having the information or doing the work that you're doing to help the people? Is there any advice? Is there anything we could do? Any information that we can look at? Any way to look inside of ourselves or anything like that? Like, you say you just volunteered this? I mean, I don't mean this to sound layman's terms, but I mean, did you apply for the job? Did you talk to somebody? Like, I'm just a little confused.
I directly applied to Christ Michael, and I never expected to get an answer for him. I didn't know at the time that he was back. You know, he is. He's the one that played the role of Jesus, to the main one that played the role back then. And I actually didn't know that he was the one I was working with until after we opened the website. I was just working with somebody I called God at that point. You know, for lack of a better word, I didn't have a name. He even flew over to my house once in 2004. It was on Election Day in November. And in a little craft, beautiful little craft, you know, typical silver craft, which was, you know, hooked me. But I did just volunteer for it. Anybody can volunteer. If you want to get involved in some way, you need to go into a state of meditation, which is just quieting your mind, and put forth a severe request. It's going to be heard. We were hoping to get funded for this and get globally active with what we just called the mission program. There is a great deal of wealth that has been gifted quite literally from heaven to this planet in terms of gold and precious metals, and some of it includes ancient relics and other things that have been preserved over time. And the planet, it's not an issue with funding the planet. You know, the bankers are a problem, and there's been a long story over that. But the original hope, and it was a small hope, but we went with it, is that we could get all of this public, and we will still have this after the stasis period. Regional directors all over the globe, over, you know, various regions with lots of sub-help. There will be massive funding for mission creation, going to do everything imaginable, you know, improving the housing, improving all the technologies, getting technologies in that resonate. When we actually make the ascension into 5D, the planet will not be tilted anymore. It'll be straight up and down. It'll still revolve, but there will be no tilts. You'll have it even, you know, you won't have seasonal change from the wobbling, you know, that occurs with the tilt each year. And when we do that, our current states of electricity that we have, that we're sending through wires, our current methods of generating it, will not function. And we can't even go into 5D until we get technology in which electricity and light is done using photons instead of the electron. And if we were to suddenly wave a magic wand and put us in 5D, the planet would be dark.
Can I ask a question?
Nip, just one more question and then I'm all done. Nip, thanks again for taking the time to answer my questions. But I was listening earlier and I heard you say something about Venus, I believe, being populated, or Saturn, was it? I forget which.
Venus. You guys don't see Venus, except occasionally the edge of it may show on stereo, A or B. It's in our orbit, and it's on the other side of the sun. What you're looking at, that beautiful bright light in the west right now, is a craft, and it's showing lights. And the reason people say it looks like airplane lights now coming in is because it's lights, and it shows a hologram, which is a 3D movie, to make it look like Venus. Venus itself was pulled out quite some time ago into our orbit so that it could be terraformed, and it has been terraformed.
Okay,
doesn't have much. Okay, and a lot of people are going to move there.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. My question is, I guess now it's changed since that's clearly the case. But you said it was okay. So Venus was being populated. I guess this question is null because you said it's been brought into our orbit. But is there a way, with our telescope technology, satellite technology, anything like that, to witness this happening? And this light that's being portrayed as Venus, that's a craft, is there any way that we can actually look at this craft? Or
I think if you were to go out and genuinely ask it, it might move around in the sky for you or flash its lights. Jupiter is also such, and it's been doing that for people occasionally if they really have an interest. The Russians know about it because the Russians have a whole bunch of anti-gravity craft about, over 300 of them. They freely journey the entire solar system, and they are aware of that. And some stuff did leak out about Jupiter too, and where it's camping out right now, eventually through, some Russian intelligence, but it got squashed really fast on the internet. I don't know how you would, go and take pictures of it, at this point. It'd be real nice if we could get some of this stuff out of Russia, but it's not being allowed, into this country. I don't know, I don't know if it's being allowed even, to the Russian populace,
Thank you, Nip. I appreciate your info tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. So thank you, and I'm going to mic down.
Let me ask a question if I could.
Go ahead, Chip. Go ahead.
I'm just from my own personal knowledge. I'm not here to start an argument. So I guess nobody you're implying there's really no reason for being here other than to transcend to the next level. I mean,
there are some people here specifically for that purpose, to transcend into the next level. Everybody here has a different purpose and a different origin. I'm not transcending to the next level. I'm getting some valuable experience in some planetary management that I will be involved in, later. But everybody's always growing. There's no lids, and it just. But there are certain people here that need to be prepared and to transcend to the next level, and there is an interest in that particular group that are ready to go into 5D consciousness. And those are the ones that will be returning to the planet, and there's about 1 billion of them. After the stasis period that I've talked about for some of the Earth changes, et cetera, will last between 5 and 15 years. And some of these people returning may be able to return a little early and be put into the underground areas. The dark folks were given a lot of carrots to build all those underground areas that they thought that they were going to get to go live in, and those are going to be used by man of Earth as needed until more rebuilding on the surface can occur. And so we estimate 5 to 15 years because they're going to hit the planet up with that time with massive technology. That volcanism is going to be huge, and they're going to, more or less vacuum that off, or I don't think we're going to vacuum it off. I think there's technology that'll cause it to settle because it'll enrich the soil. And that sort of
what
thing.
happens if we check out the next 10 years? You missed the 15. What's up?
Well, you're giving me a lot more information than I need. I just want some quick, simple answers. Are you claiming the Bible is true or untrue?
I totally didn't understand. What do you want to know is true or untrue? I lost track there.
All right. My question is, do you say the Bible is true or untrue? You said you met Jesus or Christ Jesus. So are you claiming there's any validity to the Bible, yes or no?
There is some validity, but it's inaccurate and insufficient. It's insufficient, let's put it that way.
All right, so Jesus came to the earth. That's really what you're saying. I'm trying to get some kind of reasoning behind it, other than you're saying we're going to continue to transcend. So let's take a Hitler, for instance. Hitler, he backed up.
Hitler did what?
Someone like Hitler that come along and killed millions of people. What'd he do? You're saying he backed up, he went back a level? Is that what you're implying?
I imagine Hitler and some of the others are going to be facing the galactic court system. Some of these that were really bad, they will be facing court judgments. There's actually courts, not Earth courts, galactic courts. He will be facing, but sure, he moved backwards. I'm pretty sure of that one.
All right. So I guess I'm trying to get a feel of what your purpose is here. Your purpose is to let those who know or want to know that there's something coming other than what the Bible says is coming, correct?
Some of that information in the Bible of what's coming is correct. There just isn't enough of it. It's not correct enough. It's incomplete.
Can I just ask Chip a question real quick? Chip, do you like mustard and biscuits?
Do I like what?
Do you like mustard and biscuits?
Go ahead, hit me. What's the punchline, man?
Can you just say you like mustard on your biscuits?
Actually, no, I don't like mustard and biscuits.
Can I have a question?
Wait a minute. I need
Hold
to
on,
take
hold on.
okay. I need to take a really short break. It's a nature call. I'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll refill my glass of water too. So talk away for a couple minutes.
All right.
All right.
And this is some intense science, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's intense, all right. I
Science
don't know if I'd
fiction.
call it science.
I mean,
Like
you
science
can put
fiction.
whatever word you want after the science.
I call it science fiction.
Nice.
I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, she should be writing books, getting rich from this shit. She could like start a whole cult around it. For fuck's sake. It's not like she's trying to get it going. She's got her details down pat, man. I mean, she got her story straight. I'm gonna try to get into like the deeper side of it, man. I want to find out what happened later in the evolutionary path. What's the point of it all?
Well, she's at the very least been beamed up. I mean, they say that those things are going to happen. I don't doubt what she said. I just think it's an illusion. I find it hard to believe. It kind of makes everything we've done up to this point kind of irrelevant. I'm going to back out of this conversation. I don't think I can do any further good. Thank y'all.
Where are you going?
Well, I don't know which question to ask because I guess you guys are only allowed one question. I mean, all her science claims with electrons, photons, even the bit processing in a CPU, it's absolutely questionable from my point of view.
Oh, we just got to try and get everybody in. I know there's a lot of people want to ask questions.
I'm back.
All right.
Regardless, it's a great fucking story. I mean, it's highly entertaining. It's very in depth. I mean, I feel like I'm watching a movie just listening to it.
Okay, General, go ahead.
All right, Nip. I think I'll start with the first question because I only came into this podcast pretty late, I guess. You mentioned that 256-bit computing or more will generate artificial intelligence that can think for itself. But we're already doing this with 64-bit parallel processing. And at the same time, artificial intelligence doesn't think outside the box. It doesn't have lateral thinking. It's pre-programmed statistics. So even if we go past 256-bit, even if we go up to 512-bit or 1024-bit, we'll never have a computer that can think for itself. So I was just wondering, how could you answer that question?
That information in part was just simply given to me that we can't have more than that because it can start to think for itself. But when we have earned it and we have to be a planet at peace with people's minds where they ought to be focused, we are going to have living computers that will run off of amino acids and bacteria, etc. And those are widely used throughout the creation because they're highly accurate. They never make errors. They're very fast. They store, even more than, our digital storage can work. Our 64-bit, dual-core computers, those are, it's 32-core doubled. It's not as powerful as this, and this is simply what I've been told by, the ones that I work with above because I only have a minimal amount of computer knowledge. I mean, I took BASIC once and I studied 8-bit and that was a long time ago, and I took Fortran, which was also, that was 40 years ago. I was pregnant with my son then. That's how reason, that. I'm not into, what's currently going on, but they really did not want to for the double core to be developed but it takes, it's going to take a lot more programming effort to even program for what he just told me to call it 64 single core rather than a dual core processor, and they wanted that developed and for John Q. Public well more than that, but it simply was not. The people here run the show, these ones we call our elites, et cetera, they would like to have that, but they don't want the people to have it. And was that my key? Or did somebody roll their tongue?
I think that was a Wookiee.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. It was kind of, since I didn't make, computers my choice of career this time, although I considered it once. I'm not active with that kind of thing, and so I'm going to have to go by what I've been informed and what I've been asked to teach, and leave it at that, at this time.
All right.
Good.
Let's go ahead and
Can I just mention just a passing comment? To be honest, it just didn't answer my question, so I'll just leave it at that.
Well,
Okay.
dude, you gotta understand when you're talking to her, man. Look, she's basically doing like the channeling thing, man. It's like you're asking her a question, and then she's getting information relayed down from her, I don't know, special contacts with the universal agents. And they're putting it in terms, sometimes they use analogies and things. So you gotta kind of look at that. Yeah, the greater picture, what you're actually doing. If you ask her a question right now, she can directly commune the answer to you from the universal high.
Actually, I
if she
can
was
do
truly
that, and Christ Michael is attending me tonight, but I'm not going to directly channel him. He's just there if I need some advice. But I can shoot a question to him. He's surrounded me at the moment. He can hear everything that you guys are saying. And so far, all I'm getting is pats on my back that it's going okay, so I haven't, gone any further with that. It's pretty much my own show.
A Mentality, you got a question?
Yes. Hi, Nip. I had a dream recently, where I was shown that I was a crab, and then a cat and then human in my previous incarnations. Is this possible?
Absolutely, it's possible. On evolutionary planets like this, this is a seed planet to develop new souls, and then the new souls developed here will, populate some more of the universe, let's just say when they graduate from the planet, which the ones that are continuing to graduate, that'll be about in 1,000 years. But new soul is moved up through the animal realms, and on some planets, even the plant realms. There actually are plant people on worlds that do not develop a lot of land life or whatever. There's quite a variety of different ways to do something, and so most people that have their soul origin, from the animalution, have been many animals, and there are planets with a lot of water and less land where, crabs have little hands and pincers, etc. They can evolve and they can get pretty intelligent. So yes, that's absolutely possible that you have had that experience in the past. And under a state of hypnosis done by a regressive hypnotist that knows how to do that, that could all be revealed to you, remembered, by that method. So I would accept that, yes, probably so, very likely so.
Is it possible that incarnated physical beings were once an entire planet?
That's a good question. Not an entire planet unless the planet was destroyed. The mother soul of a planet, if the planet's blowing up or ceases to exist, would be, somebody asked this last time and we didn't get to the answer on it, would be started on an incarnational journey through the human system, if that were to happen. So I'd have to say that that's possible in some cases, yes.
All right, we're going to throw it over to 2342.
Thanks a lot. Is the mic sounding better now?
Oh, yes, much better.
Great. Sorry about that earlier. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a long question, nobody in particular. We had talked a little bit about this before when you were on, and you said you were going to look into it. It's in regards to the artificial moons that not only orbit Saturn, but also Phobos. I'm referring to Mimas, Iapetus, and Phobos. Have you had an opportunity to speak with any of your people or channelers as to who created them, how long ago they were created, and what happened to cause the destruction that we can clearly see now with high-resolution photos that are on the high-rise, or not the high-rise, but NASA's satellite program, the JP. There's several, actually there's probably 1 or 2 dozen high-resolution photos that clearly show that there's been blast sites and that they are artificially created. So have you had a chance to speak with your people about that?
I asked about Phobos, and actually the minute I looked at Phobos after you brought that up, I wrote you a note about it actually. Maybe you didn't answer it or forgot. But Phobos basically is a big rock that's being mined. It's not really artificially created. It's being mined. That's why all track marks across it, etc. Iapetus is, if you look at it, it looks like 2 geodesic domes stuck together, right? Essentially, underneath all the stuff, and it's been marked up a little bit by things hitting it. That is actually a belt moon, really not too much different than the our moon that's got around us now. It is not fully activated, and at the moment it suffered a lot of damage, including a little bit of galactic warfare, and it's being rehabilitated for future use, but it's not serviceable at this time. The other one, I don't remember the name, and I'm not sure I heard of it because you mentioned.
Yeah, no problem. Phobos, when there's been satellites, they've actually found that Phobos has pockets of atmospheres, and it's hollow. And back in the 60s, one of the cabinet members for the administration had said that there's no question Phobos is an artificial moon. Whether they're doing mining on there, I don't know, or if it's just some type of blast sites or whatever. But the other two are Iapetus, which is on one of the inner rings of Saturn, and so is Mimas. They look just like the Death Star, and they're not round, and they're actually put together similar to a biodome, tetrahedron truss technology, which is multiple octagon panels. And Iapetus clearly has a 12-mile high, 12-mile wide ridge that goes around the entire circumference of the moon. And there's a lot of speculation that it could be some type of CERN technology, similar to what we have here, but a much larger scale. And if you were to look at the Death Star from Star Wars, especially Empire Strikes Back, and you compare that with the high-resolution photos of Iapetus, they have the same blast sites. They look almost identical, and you can clearly tell that they are artificial. So I just didn't know if you had a chance to talk to your people about that yet.
The reason Phobos has the oxygen pockets and all of that as a sphere that's being mined is because there are people living under the surface, and there's technology on there to provide. I can't swear to that, but a lot of warring. All I've been, when I asked about it, they just said it's being refurbished, for future use. But I would not think it's a Death Star. I would think it's something to live inside of by whoever might need it. It could be, hierarchy. It could be people, there's solar system that are, some of them are actually in use. It's not uncommon. People, when they traverse the universe, they build spheres and stuff. Some are not.
We're getting some really high ping here, and most of what you said was cutting in and out, probably like I am right now.
I got some of yours, but I couldn't. One time when I released my key, it still stayed stuck on, and I have no idea why the key did that, but it did, So, but basically I heard you. I was just trying to explain. I can add some of that to my thread that I've started. If I forget, put a note in it for me, and then I'll try to answer that. But I think I was telling you, I think that there's 36 artificial moons in our solar system that have been constructed by various people.
And there's also a lot of speculation that our own moon is artificial. They found giant gravitational maskins on the dark side, as well as the fact that the outside of the moon is a titanium alloy hull, basically. All of the rocks that they brought back from the moon have been tested to be over 100 million years older than the Earth.
It is artificial. It was after the downfall of Atlantis, etc. Earth had two just normal moons, and they were lost and destroyed, and it was towed in here some time ago. I'm not really sure, but it was built somewhere else and transported here, which is why it could, test to be as old as it was, but it has not been going around our planet for that long. It was brought here. And some of the people that have been on it in the past were, not Anunnaki, but another race of people that had some control over Earth at the time, and exactly lighted as part of this whole Warring thing. I would be willing to bet the moon was built in Orion and brought here during that long period of Orion warring. And the people on it, their name starts with an A too, like Anunnaki, but I just can't remember what it is.
Have you heard of?
They supposedly have returned the light service, but yeah, it is occupied.
Have you heard of Indio Swan? He's a famous remote viewer.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, he wrote a book, and he's been really hard to get a hold of for about 10 years now. But he was one of the top remote viewers for the military, and he wrote a story about how he remote viewed the moon, and he saw basically this green mist. He didn't know what he was remote viewing when these people, which were basically described as men in black, asked him to view this particular. They gave him the numbers of the basically location of the moon. They didn't tell him what he was looking up with his remote viewing capabilities. And anyway, he saw these individuals out there, these humanoid type beings, and he said it looked like they were doing some type of mining operation out there, and they were naked in some type of green mist. So my question is that PSYOP, or have your own contactees seen similar type beings?
Why don't you write that in my thread, and then I'll see what I can find out.
Sure, I'll be more than happy to.
So if you have some questions that are not getting answered, there's a thread associated with the podcast tonight, and please go fill it up, and then over the next 2 or 3 days, I'll work on it. I'm taking a portion of tomorrow off. I really need that, but yard work and things during the nice weather sort of stuff that I've been ignoring, and but I'll work on it and see what I can, see what we can provide on that, and write them down, because I'm likely to walk off tonight and forget what you asked. Somebody asked me something last Thursday night, and I cannot for the life of me remember it now, that I had promised to get information about. So if that person is still listening tonight, they need to put it.
Hey, Osiris, you got a text question?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions actually from a couple members. So once I get these, you guys can have it back. But Biometrico was asking, they want to know if the ETs will intervene and determine who the next president will be, and also if they do intervene, does it mean that Obama is the chosen one? And also, do you consider these ETs good or bad?
Nothing but good. Bad ETs do not fly space anymore. They're kept on planet. If they're bad, they're not out there. They don't choose the presidents. I know that there's a lot of that stuff that goes on, but that's not true. I don't see how we can use Obama, because some of you already know about my famous Obama, implying several Obamas. The original Obama is not amongst us. I've been told that he was killed and DNA samples kept, but the one that we saw in 2004 was a clone, and I've done some pretty good comparison of my own on some of the pictures from the childhood posted, and this ain't the one. And the cloning labs have been closed on Earth. They can't be used anymore, and for the time being anyway. Cloning's another thing that's useful, but it's being used wrongly here. And So now they're mostly doing surgical lookalikes, and the head stars are so bad on some of them, and the way he looks, I think we're looking at, I guess, what I label a cyborg, a human body running around with an awful lot of electrical connections put in his head to make him run. You know, we got a little machine man going on here, and they do some surgery on him. When he gave that speech in Hawaii a few months ago, that Obama was a whole lot shorter next to some other people than the ones that we have, and he made a lot of little errors. Not that people don't make errors, but the funniest one is that he thought that Hawaii and himself were in Asia. You know, but I see a lot of these kinds of, you know, when they're traveling, they're getting pretty good at hologram.
Okay, so we're coming back up. We had a little reboot of the server, so come on in, have a seat, you relax, get a beer, and you know, and we'll get the show finished up here as soon as Nip gets back in. Oh, Lord. Great show so far. Great show, great.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. We couldn't get back in and we're potting, and because we were cached, I had to do a quick reboot, so I couldn't even give you a warning because we couldn't get back in. So cache is cleared. We're good to go.
If you can't see the chat box, if you're not able to chat, you just need to resize your box.
Well, they totally typed to ask that question.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it?
Once again, sorry about that, guys. We got kicked out. We couldn't get back in, and since we're potting this, we couldn't get back in. I had to do a quick reboot. I wish I could have gave you a warning, but wasn't in here to give you a warning. At least the cache is clear, and we should be good to go now.
Let's see if Nip comes back in here.
I'll post in a thread.
Yes. There you are, Nip. Hey, Nip. Sorry, we had to reboot the server, so, I don't know, we got a few minutes left if you want to, do maybe a few more questions.
Sure.
Well, I had one more question from one of the members I got probably a half an hour ago.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. This question was from Wonderlust. Basically, they want to know what will happen to all the organic immortals, the gods more or less, that are not necessarily negative people during the ascension period. You know, especially those who were actually helping. They want to know, you know, will they be transported to where they belong, or will bad choices and karma have an effect on them? And will they need to more or less relive the reincarnation cycle to fix their karma? I hope that makes sense.
That depends on where everybody is. I'm staying here for another 1,000 years, you know, myself. I'm a free soul, and I committed to that process, you know, and to run this organization. It just depends on who people are and where they are, you know, as to where they'll go and what they have to. You do have to eventually, if you stay with the eternal journey, you know, convert yourself eventually to everything being on photons, because photons carry truth and not junk. It's just junk. It's just, you know, that's in terms of the human mind system. And so that's individual with everybody, you know, where they're going to go and what they're going to be doing next.
I have a question for you, Nip, if you don't mind.
That wonk.
Yeah.
Pancake.
My question deals with the 256-bit issue that you brought up, and General Hahn touched on it a little bit. Now, you say that once we reach that point, or, you know, that artificial intelligence will become sentient, in that it'll be able to think and pretty much do whatever it wants on its own. But the problem is confounder detection. Right now, they've devised algorithms to where there's a 25% success rate, you know, in confounder detection. But the way that those algorithms were derived were through the human mind, you know, in that they developed these proofs, and should there be these necessary and sufficient conditions are met, then they're able to bypass the guard to go into those algorithms and evaluate those statements and attempt to identify those confounders. And the Max Planck Institute just released a paper about a couple weeks ago that dealt with that. And the problem is the AI won't be able to evaluate or detect those confounders without some human intervention, in that the human needs to be able to devise the code, or actually build those algorithms so that the confounders could be detected. And until the confounder detection reaches a rate of what they're saying is 95, of course, is sufficient, but or a higher rate of success, the AI won't be able to, or won't be sentient. So it would be something that humans alongside AI develop, and it won't just be something that AI runs rampantly out of control and develops on its own.
Yeah, that's actually true. And the HAL example was working with something, even well beyond that. But I have to go, just with the fact that for a period of time we can't go past 256 bit computers. And I'd like you to write your question up in my thread, because I'm just not computer literate enough to even, track that to give an answer, and then I'll see what they'll allow me to play. But write it up a little bit better in my thread.
Nip, let me just ask you, do you think the legend of John Teeter is true? You think that guy really came back?
Why don't you put that in the thread too? Because the name John Teeter sounds familiar, and that's all I can say about it. I don't know what he did unless you can fill me in.
JohnTeeter.com. He's a time traveler.
What about John Connor?
I don't know who John Connor is either. Put him in the thread and I'll do some research.
Somebody do that. I'm lazy.
No problem.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have heaps.
Yeah, let me ask you something, Nip. In the beginning, I had asked you if the powers that be were working with the hierarchy, and you had said yes. We look as the powers that be, or deemed as the New World Order, and for the most part, most of us are anti-New World Order. Wouldn't it be fair to say that if they're working with the hierarchy, that the hierarchy is not working in our best interest, or am I just too medicated and not hearing you correctly?
The hierarchy is always in our best interests. They work with our powers to be to see what they can get them to do, and there's always an interchange going on, and these are evaluated constantly. But the reason we're still here and the planet hasn't been cleaned is because they are working in our higher interest. They want everybody to come as far as they can come before we have to, shut the doors before the next stage. And they will work with anybody, and they're very capable of bribing them. That's why I said offer carrots. The bribing and the carrots got the underground centers built and numerous, it got the internet up, it got all sorts of things up, because these the powers that be like their material gains. And so there was a lot of bribing that's going on. It's one art of warfare. But they did not want, they don't want to close the doors here until every last thing has been done. And they gave them 3 more months, mostly because of the involvement of China in some things that happened over the last year. And China kind of made some of their promises too. And the Khazars didn't care too much for that, and they destroyed Libya over it. There's a lot of war going on that's not on the newspapers right now. But the goal setting is to get us as far as they can get us.
Can you verify one shred of information of this galactic?
I have a question.
I'm going to leave that to all of you.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, I was trying to go next after the person speaking.
Thank you.
One at a time on the mic, please. Thank you.
Okay, is it okay if I speak?
Well, somebody asked a question before you, so could you wait for that question to be
Actually,
answered
before that, but I will wait. I was actually next.
For the dude who asked if she could verify any of these things, she has addressed that within the last 2 hours, that these are things that are channeled through her.
So the answer is no.
How would you expect me to verify that? I'm going to ask you the question. Tell me how. I have no idea how to verify that to you.
I'm done.
Good. Okay, next question, please.
What's up with Planet X?
I believe the other girl had a question. Let's move on to her, please.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to know, I'm kind of new, I'm not sure, about you, but can you speak anything as far as, a person being a light worker, and, as far as, is tarot card something that's used as, on the spiritual side, is something satanic, or is it something that, a light worker can use?
That did not come through well to me. It came through in bits and pieces, and I didn't hear the whole question.
Yes, sweetie,
Okay.
we can't hear you too clearly.
Okay, sorry about that. I was asking, I said I'm not too familiar with nobody in particular, but I was asking if you had can you shed any light on how someone is supposed to know if they're a light worker, and spiritually how tarot cards are viewed, if they're viewed as satanic, or if they're viewed as something that can be used in a highly spiritual way.
No, if you're a light worker.
I think most people that are light workers know that. According to the definition, you're working towards good. If you're working towards good, I'd label you a light worker. I didn't get the other part of the question. Were you asking about the training or how to become one or something? I still am.
She was asking about tarot cards. She wanted to know if tarot cards were evil.
That would depend on whose hand that they're in. There's a lot of frauds there. It's difficult to label anything good or evil. It depends on the intention and motivation. There are people that can read soul and use tarot cards as a prompt. I watched a tarot card thing once. That's my only experience. I didn't partake in it. I just watched it, and that's been a lot of years ago. It would depend on the nature of the person using the cards. If it was tarot cards that I saw, which I think it was. It could be used for good or evil. I wouldn't, label it one or the other. People have stuff stored in their soul, and there's ways to access it. And some people can read soul records very nicely. So I'd say it would be in the hands of the practitioner as to the intent.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Dark side has a lot of power, and there's an awful lot of, I just like to label it voodoo or black magic. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, nobody. I just want to ask you one more quick question too. This just came up in my mind. You speak of all of these light workers and beings that are helping us and mankind and the planet and the different stars. And I would like to know, in this universe that we live in, I think that it's a dualistic universe. There must be an opposite and equal reaction to every action. So basically, no good deed goes unpunished. Have you met some, I guess, let's call them dark beings or nefarious beings that would have the same type of power that these light beings do, just in the negative aspect of creation?
I've had some come around and try to play games, and I send them packing. They played with that a lot with me before we came public. I went probably through some testing on that. I had some dark ones actually come into my room and try to muck with me at night. I really had to put through, they're pretty identifiable, and I've had a lot of people that play black magic very well. Somebody here on GLP, I taunted them a while back because I was pretty sure that they could practice some black magic, and maybe 15 minutes after I fell asleep, here they came, and they played, some black magic stuff, and I returned it to them about tenfold, and they haven't done it again. So there's white magic and black magic. It depends on how you use it and what you use it for.
Hey, Nip, I guess my question was, if artificial intelligence is going to become self-aware, humans are going to play a role in that. But if we cannot overcome one great weakness that we have, and that's the identification of confounders, or confoundants, and we don't know that one thing causes another. We perpetuate the typical post hoc fallacy. Then we would actually have to, I don't want to use the term evolve, but somehow we would have to figure out how to identify confoundants on our own before the artificial intelligence could.
I would say that's true, and I would say also that the whole process is being babysat so it will not be allowed to get out of hand, and I don't think it'll be allowed, because it did get out of hand in some places. I don't think it'll be allowed to get out of hand. I think there's going to be a lot of babysitting as we take that journey on this planet.
So you think that, if assuming that there are some extraterrestrial beings and that they do intervene in certain aspects of our day-to-day lives, you think that they will intentionally suppress technological innovation or human innovation for that matter?
If we're not ready to spiritually manage it, yes. These people are very old beings that I'm just going to say here, the whole creation is completely and totally governed. There are many, many, many layers to that, and planets are watched. One of the reasons they're basically here is this is a dark planet. By the way, all universes are dualistic universes, and they eventually do enter non-duality, but it's really a long time, and I'm not sure it's happened yet. I don't remember, but yeah, all universes are.
How do you know there's dual universes?
Yeah. The opposite sides of the coin thing, that's just, completely part of how it all works. But the reason they came here, I just said it's a prison planet. They put all the problems on one planet to control it. And I'm getting tired. Just a minute. Let me.
Okay, Ned.
How do you know that?
Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. It just completely popped out of my head. It's gone.
That's okay.
We were talking about the artificial intelligence, so I'm trying to see if I could get it back. Oh, well, the thing was because all of this stuff is going on, and it has to be watched because they will not have the planet destroyed. And every planet that's experimenting with nuclear is babysat anyway because of the issues with them. When scalar technologies are developed, they have to be watched because it's very easy to take some of these standing scalar technologies and completely blow up the planet with it. You get a standing wave going, and our thugs don't have a way to stop that. So it has to, there has to be outside interest here to control this, and who's controlling this are not people simply from other evolutionary planets like this. It's although they may be used to some degree, because some of them do have some technologies, they may be invited to use some of it, but most of the control comes from the management teams of the creation.
So what in your opinion, or what has been possibly revealed to you, will be the event that will trigger the intervention such that everyone will know that there are individuals playing a role, in our day-to-day lives?
What will be the event? You mean that'll start the stasis, or that will put us on TV, or what there? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
That would actually trigger that intervention, because you say that they're watching to make sure that certain things do not occur. What are those actual things other than the certain advances in artificial intelligence? You're saying weapons to destroy the planet or anything like that, and so they're not going to let us know that they're intervening, and they're just going to throw us into a stasis. So then, they would eliminate all of our free will.
If people use some technology that can blow up the planet, they're going to intervene that. They shut down Fukushima. They intervened there. As far as the stasis, I think that what will, simply set that off is going to be massive earth changes that people can't deal with. That's just my understanding that that's the main fixture there in terms of all the artificial intelligence and stuff going on. They've always, they have always kept that within the realms of what they'll allow.
Man, this has just been an epic night tonight. Nobody, we always love having you on here. This has been a great crowd. I mean, a ton of people in here tonight. A lot of listeners in the live streams. You always bring an awesome crowd.
I think we were a pew under 200 physical, and the live streams I saw 80 something. So she rocked the house tonight. Beautiful.
One more question. Nip, can you give some advice to people on preparing for what's coming ahead of us?
Not really, because you always have to be constantly prepared just for earthquakes, tornadoes, all these sorts of things that are increasing. It's dumb not to be prepared for those kinds of contingencies, at any point. I don't see what else other that you can prepare for other than making every effort to continue your learning and your soul consciousness, your soul growth in a positive way. I would love to have the churches teach that concept of soul growth and responsibility and that sort of thing. You don't just go off to some fluffy heaven because you believe in Jesus. That's, really not how it works. But I think just to constantly be on the alert and to prepare for issues. If there is a bank closure, that's still in the realm of possibilities in this war between the Chinese and the Khazars going on right now. If there is a bank holiday for any reason, I think you all need to have, as much as you can, plenty of small cash, because if we get a bank closure for even a few days, you won't be able to buy, you can't swipe your plastic. And so you're going to have some money, and you should have some small money on hand, because retailers are going to run out of change. You can't be running $100 bills into them, and they won't be able to change it. So I think you just need to have that, the ability to store some water for short term, and so on and so forth, that you would deal in anything. During the announcement period, if we get to do that, a lot of people will not be working then. I'm not really at liberty to say why, but everybody's going to be provided for during that period of time. Nobody's going to have to pay.
Hey, can you wait, please, to mic up? Thank you.
Candace, this is James Poe. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was nice to hear your voice and put your voice to your name.
Thank you.
So, what were you talking about?
Catch the podcast.
No, what were we talking about?
Catch the podcast. It'll be up shortly.
So, G, did you want to say something?
Nip, you want to continue, or how much longer you want to go?
I'm wagging out. I kind of like maybe to answer questions in my thread and then maybe do something impromptu a little bit later if there's people in here, sort of like what happened last Thursday night. I don't know. I could take a couple more questions, but I'm running near the end of my endurance.
Yeah. Hey, Ben. Sugar J, S-U-G-J, had a question, and I missed it, but he's been trying to get it out through the show here. He doesn't have a mic. What was that question, Shug? Write it down real quick, and I'll ask for it.
I have a question on the end term, and it has to do with perspective. If you were commenting on how things would be looked at by extraterrestrial life a million years ago, looking at the Earth, and say a million years from now, what would your answer be?
Earth's history is not well understood. We've had people from other worlds here for a million years. But a million years from now, this planet is becoming an eternal planet, the solar system is, and I'd say, there's no lids on anything, and a million years from now, I would think it would be absolutely wondrous here, and we'd be very advanced in everything that there is to know. It's a stepping stone planet into continual learning. That's why this is, and the planet will be here a million years from now. I can very much assure you that. I could post maybe why in my thread, but I would think a million years from now that,
Would you think that there'd be 100% telepathy at that point in time, and also evolving into timeless beings?
Everybody's a timeless being. We will be timeless when we enter 5D. All timeless means is that we are going to become an eternal planet. Our sun is never going to die. That's why it's white now instead of yellow, by the way. All the other preparations that are going on here for the preparation of all of this. I don't think anybody's going to choose to stay on the planet for 1,000,000 years, because at some point you've got to move forward. But the planet's going to be here, and there will be people moving through it, learning some next stage of whatever that they need to learn. People are recycled into places where they, where it's time for them to learn and experience things. And they'll be doing that 1,000,000 years from now, and it's going to be, of course, way beyond what it is now.
So, Candace, what's the point of it all? I mean, is the point just to continue to evolve and become a universal servant to, serve your part?
Of course. What other reason would there be? There's life. That's why it is. Life grows, mind grows, consciousness grows. There's no lid on it. You can, that is the point. What other point would there, be to me? I can not say how life got started, but it did. There is consciousness, and consciousness naturally wants to grow. Eternal life is a choice. It's not for everybody. Some people drop out because, we're talking about existing consciously someplace for trillions of years. That's a long time. I've tried a couple times to start threads about what you're going to be doing for trillions of years, and they just don't go over because that's not in people's consciousness very well. Since I'm from paradise, my soul is several million years old already. Hey,
nobody. We had a question from one of our listeners. Let me get it here real quick. It is from Jay. You mentioned the Anunnaki, and he just wants to know what your opinion is on the story. As most say, it's a fake story created by Stitchin. Do you doubt what he says, or do you agree with it because of all the time he spent on researching it before he passed away?
Oh, it's absolutely basically true. I don't know if he translated everything correctly, but yes, they have been, and they've been controlled, and part of the intervention that started 2,000 years ago was putting a lid on them. And they made agreements and agreed to change, and they didn't, and they kept messing with Earth. They broke their promises. That's sort of typical of dark beings, I would assume. And we're still playing havoc in here, and every last one of them has been escorted some great distance from here, and they're no longer involved. And this has just been in the last 5 or 10 years.
In Stitchin's work, he says that the Homo erectus was basically GMO'd, which is what made us, which turned us into the way we are. And he says that they did it to harvest gold, to be like a slave race. My question is, do you agree with that, or do you think they actually did it for more sinister purposes, maybe to harvest our soul energy?
Can't harvest soul energy. I don't know where people get that. That's people that are, there's people that drink blood and they carry on these rituals to supposedly harvest soul energy. The Anunnaki, they needed to mine gold in Africa, and they did upgrade some people that were just beyond, 8th stage to be as servants, and that's where some of the underworld stories come from. But the planet has had people colonized here from other places since the times of the dinosaurs. That's why they're finding bones with the dinosaurs. And so what we are right now is a mix of everybody that has come here, and not just the genetic engineering that occurred in Africa for the purpose of mining. But that portion of that story is true. But, as I say, there's been many other visitors. There's been a lot of Orions and Palladians walking the planet over time and having s'mores with each other, and all these other sorts of stories that you hear, too. And then when planets go through, axis shifts, there's or pole reversals, there's a lot of loss of life during then, and a lot of cleaning, and some more people, when it's all done, come back and move in. And so these bodies that we are a mix of all of that. But there's been some intentional, and the people on the moon were involved with this in the last several hundred years with deliberately creating embryos that were a little bit less than human, to create, just robotic type people that cannot be ensouled any too well. And the genetics on this planet are for a variety of reasons, and they're being raised up right now. An elevated, I could go into the Adam and Eve mission, which had that purpose. As a matter of fact, I have in a lot of my threads. But the DNA on this planet is being elevated intentionally from laboratories above craft, using people skilled in doing that thing, plus the energies itself coming into the planet that remodel DNA. We're supposed to actually be 12 strands of DNA on this planet, and not the animal 2 strands. And that's all changing in time. It's all planned.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't it seem like our DNA has been altered with at some point in time? Why is it that some people have, incredible PK abilities, psychic abilities, and others, seems dormant? Wouldn't you agree that whoever manipulated with our DNA did it to somewhat suppress our abilities with the universe and be able to connect to these higher spiritual realms, I guess you could say?
Absolutely. That's one way war has done, and there are people here that have warred against God. They want to keep the planet, and they want some simple servants. That's the short story. And yes, it has been mucked with, but it's also being improved. And one of the reasons that you are seeing, incredibly intelligent psychic people right now is that a lot of embryos, people think that they've been abducted, and that's not totally what's going on. But a lot of embryos are being when people want to have a baby, they are taking some of their eggs and some sperm, and they're doing a little work in the lab, and they're making a better embryo so that somebody of great intelligence can incarnate into here and have a functioning body. And that process was underwent even in the creation of my own embryo, which is why I was born with the telepathy that I've always had. I simply came in with a modified body so that I would have that, and there's many on the planet in that condition, and it's being done more and more and more. And then when we reproduce, obviously, that upgrades the genetics in our progeny.
Nip, can I ask you something here? You said we evolved. Now, this is going to sound like, I don't want to sound facetious, but I'm just curious. If a person, let's just take a general jerk, okay, if he's an asshole in this life, and we move on to the next realm, is there assholes like in the next realm, or do they finally, get a clue?
I would say up through the realms of the local universes that you are going to have plenty of assholes, but beyond that, no. I won't say that people don't make errors, but there's assholes still in these architectural spheres of heaven that I talk about. Until people make choices they're given an awful lot of time to grow up, and some of them will check out at that. But and generally, assholehood does go away at some point.
So, in other words, in that realm, you guys have like uber, super duper assholes, right?
What we do here, and we'll have some assholes still, even as we move into 5D and 6D. There are some people that will be jerks, but if they want to continue their eternal journey with any degree of speed, the longer you want to be a jerk, the longer it takes. And so, you do not pass into your next grade until you have earned the right.
That's cool.
I wanted to ask you earlier when you were talking about your planetary destruction. I've wondered, was this something like where the pole reversal takes place, this is a natural stage of the planet, or was this like the Anunnaki culling their slave population? Like, were all of our doom scenarios, the Noah flood, the pole flips, the ice ages, whatever those cases may be, are those natural Earth phenomena, or were they affected by whatever extraterrestrial life was controlling the lesser life on this planet?
Any and all to that question. It depends on who's been in control. This planet, as far as this Lucifer rebellion thing that happened, a whole bunch of people said no more, of the hierarchy for us, and we're going to come out here and do our own thing, and they laid waste to a lot of stuff, and Some of them have had enough technology to cause some things, but some of it's natural. The planet will cleanse all by itself every time it goes into the photon belt. For example, if the races on the planet have not evolved themselves, that will wipe it clean. The planet, can by itself go into a magnetic pole reversal or into an axis shift based on the negativity that's present to cleanse. So it can be both.
Okay, so basically you're saying that possible culling of the population has happened, but the planet will also clean house on its own.
Yes, it can clean house on its own, and the only ones that can prevent the cleaning house are those that are from the universe that are here with those big craft we see around the sun. They can delay it.
So without them, we'd all be dead here shortly.
Oh, absolutely. The planet was going to do an 18-degree axis shift after World War II, and they stopped it.
Man, somebody give that guy some
People
attention.
just can't resist, huh?
He needs some attention in real life. Somebody probably didn't love him. But yeah, that's interesting because I've been saying that too, that, the doom that happened before was a cycle. And that obviously I've been saying intuitively, I don't know, call it a telepathic message being put into my brain, that particular cycle was being messed with by sentience at this particular stage.
Yeah, it is, and again, the whole purpose on that is the soul growth, because we're entering this new cycle that is more important than the photon belt. It's the cycle of the energies coming from the center of the Milky Way that we entered in 2006. And, there's left without something going on, without some intervention, the planet would do the thing.
I got one more question there, and actually it goes back to my sort of theory on black hole that just popped into my brain. This photon that's emanating, because from observing it, it seems to me like a black hole is simply taking physical matter and converting it into the, I guess the source field would be the terminology, the life frequency, that the black hole is actually the object that's converting matter into this frequency received by our DNA. Is that close to what the case is?
Black holes are garbage dumps. What you're speaking about is another thing called dark energy bodies, and those do exist, and they are kind of what you're talking about. So are we done?
Nick, do you mean dark bodies of energy, not dark energy bodies?
Go to the Urantia book for the exact words. They're mentioned in there. Our planet, somebody did ask about, the so-called Planet X, and most people think Planet X is Nibiru, and it's not here, and it's not going to be here. But the other thing is the brown dwarf that they were talking about. That is a dark energy body. It's not quite a dark sun. It has a different role, and every solar system has a brown dwarf, and the brown dwarf is part of the interchange balance that draws the solar system around its central sun, which in our case, our central sun, the cluster that we belong to is Alcyone. And the brown dwarf is what, causes the energy interchanges that pull our solar system around Alcyone every 26,000 years. And it doesn't ever come into the solar system and charge into it and cause destruction. And as a matter of fact, when Nibiru's been here, it's never flipped the planet either. It was here 2,000 years ago, and if it had done what people claim it would done, I don't think we'd be talking on the internet right now.
One last question there. The majority of the people today who look back on people 400 years ago as being rather naive and barbaric, what do you think the people 400 years from now will look back on us and think?
I have a question. Do you have any idea how magnets work?
You'll have to wait and see.
I have a question. Do you have any idea how magnets work?
I don't have a really good working knowledge of that right now, but it's not totally. I know that there's something wrong with how we consider how they work here, because I never liked what they were teaching me in school, but I didn't take an interest in it. So I'm, there are some things that, when I read them, I know there's something wrong with it, and sometimes I know.
Actually, no, I don't know.
Well, okay, I'm sorry that you don't know. It's just an expression people use. Guess I use.
Oh, I see. Anyway, do you like mudkips?
Mudkips? What's
Yes.
that?
Do you like mudkips?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, let's move on to the next question here. I don't think he was being serious anyway.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, we can hear you. Be nice.
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, I don't hear the fraction guy, the formula guy at all.
That's because Deese was micing over him when he was trying to ask the question. Go ahead and try again. Yes.
Didn't hear anything. 2-3, bro. If you hear him, I think you're gonna have to relay the question because nobody hears him but you.
Okay. Yeah, he left. He's gonna come back in just a minute. Well, I gotta tell you, nobody in particular. Once again, man, this has been awesome. So we'll see if he comes back in here in a minute. Maybe it was just the harp mind control sending sounds into my inner ear, and I wasn't actually hearing them at all. Or maybe I was. But let's see if he's back here.
I didn't hear a thing.
Yeah, what happened was I actually hit the mute button off, so I guess it was just me that was able to hear him, and nobody else was able to. So that's what happened.
Hello, my name is Layson Jukas.
Okay, what's your question? I've seen you on the forum.
I have a question. What do you think about data mining?
I think we've got another troll in here.
Okay, maybe it's time, since the questions are not flowing, maybe it's time to end it tonight and encourage people to post, what didn't get answered in the thread associated with it.
Sounds good, nobody.
Yeah, we're 20 minutes short of 3 hours. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you've been like absolute diehard here tonight. I'll bet you could handle a triathlon without any problems.
Not a physical one.
Hey, Nip, if you want to do any more, we have shows basically Monday through Thursday now through July. So if you want to do them on the weekends, we'd gladly oblige you.
Okay, well, give me, I was just making sure I was mic'd up here. Yeah, give me a little time on the next one. I have some plans pretty much taking up the rest of this month. I might work in something short between now and then, but I'm not sure short's possible. So we'll see how it goes. But tentatively, let's not plan on anything else unless I'm bored one night, and there's something going on in here.
All right, well, just holler at me or 23, and we'll hook you up. 23, you want to do a closeout?
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, guys, thanks again for making it out here tonight. Appreciate all you guys making it. Spooks, chills, conspiracy theorists, minus the trolls. Nobody in particular, thanks again for making it out here. Awesome stuff. I'm going to definitely send you some posts on your threads, and we'll have you back on here again. With that said, everybody have an awesome night, and remember this, you guys.